good and evil to concepts that we often see as direct opposites. If something is good, then by definition it is not evil. Or is it? Can evil exist without good? And if so, how? Or is it always relative? Some philosophers argue that evil has no meaning without good, so here's the first possible answer to our question. Evil cannot exist without good. For example, if I say that helping an old lady cross the street is good, then preventing me from doing so by tackling me and taking away my keys and wallet would be evil. But if I never helped the old lady cross the street, then there was no good to prevent me from doing so. Therefore, in this scenario, evil could not have happened. In fact, we define evil only by comparing it to what we call good. This is why some philosophers argue that good and evil are two sides of the same coin. Take honesty. For example, sometimes we call it the best policy, other times we call it the worst policy. It all depends on the situation. What might be honest in one scenario could be a blatant lie in another. That's because the concept of honesty is defined in relation to other concepts like truth, trust, intention, and so on. In other words, good and evil are defined in relation to each other. So you can't have one without the other. But this isn't the only theory about where evil comes from. Many people throughout history believe that the world is maintained in a constant state of balance between good and evil. Think of the ancient religions that had a god of light battling a god of darkness, or the Chinese concept of yin and yang. According to these views, good and evil aren't just defined in relation to each other. They're also independent forces that require each other in order to exist. If this is true, then it seems we can have evil without good, at least in the sense that we can have a dark god without a light god. But even if this were true, it wouldn't necessarily mean that evil exists independently of good, because maybe the dark god needs the light god in order to be considered good or evil. After all, he can only be dark in relation to something that is light. So let's try a different approach to the question. Suppose there was no such thing as good. Now, in this scenario, we wouldn't be able to say that anything was good or evil, because we wouldn't have any standard by which to make that judgment. Without good, there would be no objective way of knowing whether or not something was good or bad. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the action itself couldn't be good or evil. It just means that we wouldn't know it. For example, suppose a creature lived in a cave and had never seen the sun. The creature had lived its whole life in darkness. One day the creature is gifted a box with a button that when pressed allows it to see the sun for the first time. Will we say that the creature's new ability to see the sun is a good thing or an evil thing? Perhaps neither. The creature simply experiences something new. It is only when we introduce the concept of good or evil that we can label the experience as such. This leads us to the conclusion that without good, there would be nothing to judge as evil, even though that doesn't necessarily mean that evil couldn't exist independently of good. Now, while many believe that good and evil are interconnected, others think that evil is simply the absence of good, kind of like darkness is the absence of light. If this is true, then yes, you can have evil without good, because you can have darkness without light. However, this view seems problematic when trying to explain how evil can exist on its own. After all, if evil is just the absence of good, then who or what is causing that absence? Why does evil exist? In order for this view to make sense, we need some additional explanation for why sometimes good is absent. Maybe it's because the light bulb is turned off, or maybe it's because a dark cloud passed in front of the sun. In the same way, maybe we need to posit some sort of super good being that creates the concept of good. In order for evil to exist as a lack of that good. Ultimately, the question of whether or not evil can exist without good is still up for debate. But one thing is for sure, the ideas of good and evil are deeply ingrained in human society and have been for thousands of years. What we consider to be good and evil is often relative depending on the individual, their beliefs, their culture, and their values. But despite this, we continue to grapple with the question of ultimate good and evil, as well as the nature of good and evil themselves. So what do you think? Can evil exist without good? Let us know your thoughts, and thanks for watching.